kasilanganan. Alam ng puso sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang inirang, duyan ka ng magiting. Sa manlulupig, di ka pasisiil sa dagat at bundok. At sa langit mong bughaw, may dalagang tula at awit sa paglayang inamahal. Ang isap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagniningning. Ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may di magdidilim. Lupa ng araw ng walhating ng sinta, huwag langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya na pag may mga atin ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
We are Toyota Motor Philippines, and we aim to create mobility for all, so we can all move towards a better life, a better nation, a better world, and a better tomorrow. We believe in the power of movement. To excite. To inspire. And produce happiness for all.
Good morning, everyone. I am Dante Ang, the Chairman and CEO of the Manila Times. Welcome to today's business forum on turbocharging the local motoring trade. I'll be moderating this event today with Arnold Belleza. If he looks different from my usual co-host this morning, that's because, like everything else, we are going local. So welcome, Arnold. Let me also greet the speakers today before we start. Ms. Corazon Dichosa, of course, of the Board of Investments, Attorney Romel Gutierrez of Campi, and Mr. Joseph Bastiza of the Truck Management Association. So we're eager to talk about this industry because, as you know, it plays an important role in the Philippine economy. And so if we are to discuss recovery from the pandemic, the automotive industry, of course, will play a major role. We saw some green shoots, I believe, this year, but of course, we also saw two surges of the COVID-19 that put a halt to our full throttle recovery effort. But we are looking toward a better Christmas this year. Hopefully, the government says that we may be down to alert level 1. And I was reading this morning an economic intelligence unit report that globally they are looking at a robust rebound for the global automotive industry. In fact, they're looking at 7.5 growth in 2022 bringing the global sales to the 2019 level. And the good thing there is that the growth will be led by North America and Asia. Of course, the question today is how much of that will be seen in the Philippines, or will our country continue to miss the party? So I know that we are eager to have our guests answer these questions. So I will shift now to introduce our first speaker, and she's none other than Maria Corazon Halili Dichosa. She is the Executive Director of the Industry Development Services of the Board of Investments. So Ms. Halili Dichosa is a career executive with more than 25 years in the Board of Investments. She is currently the Executive Director of the Industry Development Services. She is tasked to handle the industry-related matters and policies of the agencies. She has handled various assignments in BOI, from industry development to international marketing and international negotiations. She also handles environmental policy matters, the agency's performance governance scoreboard, and represents the agency in various task groups for vaccines in the National Employment Recovery Strategy Task Force. Executive Director Dichosa is a graduate of BS in Chemical Engineering and MS in Environmental Engineering from the Mapua Institute of Technology, and she has a Bachelor of Laws from Adamson University. Currently, she is taking up her Strategic Business Economics program at the University of Asia and the Pacific. Good morning, Executive Director Dichosa.
Good morning, Chairman.
The screen is yours.
Thank you. Okay, so there. So again, thank you, Mr. Dante Ang, Chairman CEO of the Manila Times, Attorney Romel Gutierrez, President of CAMPI, and Mr. Joseph Bautista, President of TMA. Other industry players, ladies and gentlemen, good morning po. And thank you for the invitation to speak on the automotive industry this morning with you. First, next slide please. First, let me introduce our office. So our office is the Board of Investments. It is an attached agency of the Department of Trade and Industry, and we are the lead government agency responsible for industry promotion in the Philippines. We take the lead in promoting investments and assisting Filipino and foreign investors to venture into desirable areas of economic activities like automotive manufacturing. We also register qualified projects under the Relevant Investments Priorities Plan, or IPP, or now the Strategic IPP under the CREATE Act. And we also administer incentives to compliant registered projects with the BOI. For most of you, if not all, the BOI is known to be an incentives-giving agency. But actually, our mandate is bigger than that. Incentives is just one of the policies we implement under our industry development program, the overall goal of which is to create a better future for Filipinos in the Philippines by developing industries and attracting investments that will provide jobs, foster innovation, and improve the competitiveness of the local industries responsive to the needs of the local and the global markets. The program's strategic objectives include: first is trade deficit reduction. That is to produce and export more and or import less. In relation to the automotive sector, this is a definite concern because a lot of locally sold motor vehicles and the parts and components used in local assembly are imported, thereby contributing to our trade deficit. In ASEAN alone, motor vehicles account for 13 to 16%, or around $4 billion of our total imports. Our local automotive market is relatively not small anymore, but it is mainly served by imports. Moreover, we are not exporting vehicles except for motorcycles. So that is a concern when it comes to trade deficit objective of our program. Second is value creation. to make higher value products from our indigenous resources to optimize benefits for the Philippine economy and generate more income for Filipinos. It is, of course, preferable that we process our minerals and serve the local industry rather than export our raw materials and serve the industries of other countries. For example, we should be doing the wire rods and more electrical wires from our copper or steel products from our magnetite sands. The third is global value chain or GVC integration. That is to penetrate more markets to provide more business opportunities to our industries that could spur expansions and thereby create more jobs for Filipinos. And fourth, very important also, is to generate investments in infrastructure and other public services to improve the quality of life of Filipinos. In terms of projects and programs to achieve the above objectives, these come under 5 categories: the establishment of support facilities and infrastructure, human capital development, ease of doing business, industry promotion, and policy formulation. I'll explain some of the programs in the next slides. Now, here are key programs that are supportive of the automotive industry directly or indirectly. We continue to promote and support the Build program, which would be critical in generating jobs that will spur spending for more goods like vehicles and services. The completion of the prioritized infrastructure projects is also seen to improve domestic capacity as it improves the movement of goods and people, as well as expand productive capacities of industries. The BOI, as co-chair of the Nurse Technical Working Group or the National Employment Recovery Strategy, has been active in implementing the Employment Recovery Strategy with DOLE. Aside from job fairs, reskilling, and upskilling initiatives, we are also coordinating with relevant agencies in resolving access to vaccines for industries to have a safe reopening of the economy and for vaccinations to be done in or near the industrial zones. We continue to engage the World Bank and JICA to implement supplier development programs. We conduct reverse trade fairs for our auto parts makers to join the global suppliers network of car manufacturers who are looking for metals and plastic parts, auto electronics, and now even IT services. In addition, there is a proposed project with UNIDO and the Global Environment Facility, or GEF, on accelerating the adoption and scale-up of electric mobility for low-carbon city development in the Philippines. The project will run for 5 years and will involve supply chain analysis and development for electric vehicles. The Leyte Ecological Industrial Zone, or LAZE, was conceptualized under the implementation of the copper industry roadmap, with PASAR, the lone copper smelter in the country, as the anchor firm. The master plan for LAZE was launched in December last year and envisions the zone for medium and heavy industries that could be allied or related to the automotive industry. To date, the 5 sub-technical working groups handling several components of the master plan are working on their action plans and respective budget requirements. We are likewise intensifying our efforts in promoting energy efficiency systems, renewable energy sources, smart and sustainable subdivisions and cities, and sustainable production and consumption in transport and living. We also have the Make It Happen campaign for the automotive industry is one of the priority sectors for promotion. The campaign was launched to attract investments to address supply chain gaps in auto parts making and design and auto assembly, to bring in new technologies and also provide market access to additional export markets. The campaign is used by all the investment promotion agencies to show a united effort to promote the Philippines as an ideal investment location. On research and development, we continue to strengthen government, academe, and industry linkages in coming up with the researches that would address the industry needs. We have a convergence program with the Department of Science and Technology that include proposed researches on composite materials and metals for EV batteries, among others. Last year, the BOI registered an EV charging station project that was developed by UP through the DOST's Research and Development Program. Last is the Strategic Investments Promotion Plan or Priority Plan or SIPP that will contain the list of activities that will be granted incentives under the CREATE Act. The work is still ongoing, and this is being done in consultation with the different investment promotion agencies or IPAs like PESA, SBMA, CDC, and others. Now, recognizing that the core of industry development is people, we have also put a lot of emphasis on human capital development. We have our MOU with SHED that aims to strengthen industry academic linkages and capacitate the Philippine workforce by first, determining areas or regions where to extend technical assistance through mapping out of skills requirements and university course offerings. Developing niche programs for degree-level disciplines, technical trainings, internships, skills retooling, or retraining programs in collaboration with higher education institutions and training institutions. And third, development of niche programs between the Philippine and foreign higher education institutions. Ongoing right now is the skills mapping for ITBPM, which will finish by this December, and we hope to start with electronics before the year ends. Further, we also have the AIM, or the academic industry matching, where we piloted a business to university matching with 2 Taiwanese electronics companies in the country. So far, the feedback from both the companies and the schools have been positive. The AS 9100 training program was done in partnership with the Department of Science and Technology and the Aerospace Industries Association of the Philippines, in line with the vision of the country to be a hub for aerospace parts manufacturing and allied services in Asia. The first batch ended its training last April. We're planning to have a second batch of trainees, especially for those in the electronics and auto parts manufacturing who expressed interest. This will help auto parts makers to expand their businesses and provide them competitiveness enhancement opportunities for the next level vehicles. The die and mold is a strategic support industry. The trainings are also done with DOST and are aimed to enhance the competitiveness of the local die and mold companies to increase their capability to meet the technically demanding and growing requirements of the manufacturing industries like automotive, aerospace, electronics, and the appliance industries. We're also working with JICA on human resource development for the automotive industry, like the provision of Kaizen trainings to local auto parts makers. The project also considers auto-related services like IT-BPM in the different industry promotion activities, including financing for startups. Considering the permeation of digitalization across the economy and industries, especially in managing supply chain disruptions, among others, we thought of having a program that will start more of our labor force to be IT acquainted and technology savvy. Hopefully, a lot of them will pursue this learning path to align our labor skills with the future of work. We're currently in talks with a big IT company on devising a monitored program to use its free online platform for self-learning of IT skills. And we hope to pilot it with the Subic and Clark Alliance for Development or SCAD locators. Finally, we're working with some automotive assemblers and parts makers in devising a training for Filipino engineers to enhance their capabilities to design automotive parts. This was conceptualized based on a concern raised by the auto and motorcycle assemblers on the lack of enough parts makers in the country, which may be due to the lack of design capability, preventing them to own their own designs and cater to more brand principles. Now, going to the fiscal support available to the automotive industry, we have the Motor Vehicle Development Program, which allows registered program participants to import their completely knocked down kits at 1% or 0% preferential tariff rate. The importation process for the parts and components is also facilitated by using the tariff heading specific to MVDP participants in our tariff book. Then there is the CARS program, It has two participants that have committed to expand its local manufacturing or sourcing of parts and components in exchange for the fiscal support under the program. The participants also have to produce a minimum of 200,000 units within the program period. Next is the train law, which is the first tranche of the tax reforms of the administration, and it provides for the exemption of electric vehicles from excise tax and a 50% reduction of applicable excise tax for hybrid vehicles. In Congress right now, we have EV bills that already passed in the House and in the Senate. We are hopeful that the law will soon be signed. Depending on the outcome of the bicameral conference, we believe that the EV Act will provide the much-needed framework for EV industry development, covering fiscal support aligned with the CREATE law, non-fiscal incentives that will promote the use and manufacture of EVs in the country, establishment of key support infrastructure, human resource development, as well as research and development. And of course, lastly, we have the CREATE Act. The Corporate Recovery and Tax Incentives for Enterprises Act, or CREATE law, was signed by the President on March 26 this year. It became effective on April 11, and its implementing rules and regulations became effective on June 26. The law provides for a new incentives package. So all investment promotion agencies like the BOI and PEZA now offer just one set of incentives, and we operate under one set of rules and requirements. In the approval of projects for incentives availment, there is now a split on who makes the decision. For projects below 1 billion, it is the IPA like the BOI, but for projects above 1 billion pesos, the approval will be done with the Fiscal Incentives Review Board, or FIRB. The available incentives under the CREATE include income tax holiday, or ITH, the 5% special corporate income tax based on gross income earned in lieu of all national and local taxes, enhanced deductions, the list of which you can see on the blue side of the slide, duty exemption on importation of capital equipment, raw materials, spare parts, and accessories, and lastly, the VAT exemption on importation and VAT zero rating on local purchases. In terms of the incentives package available to registered projects, this will be based on the combination of the tier or classification of the project, as well as the location of the project. It should be noted that the more high-tech and new the product or services, the more incentives it will get. You will see in the table also that the ITH period can range from 4 to 7 years, depending on the location of the project. Further, note that for the enhanced deductions, one will get 5 years of incentives if it will serve the domestic market and 10 years if it will export. For those intending to export, you can opt to avail of the Special Corporate Income Tax, or SCIT, in lieu of the enhanced deduction. So kaya siya OR, provided this is made known at the time of application or filing of application with the IPA. Also, there is this provision under CREATE that grants a special power to the President when it comes to a highly desirable project. To be such, the project should have a comprehensive, sustainable development plan with clear, inclusive business approaches and a high level of sophistication and innovation, and also with minimum investment capital of 50 billion or at least 10,000 direct local employment generation. Upon recommendation of the FIRB, the President can modify the mix, period, or manner of availment of incentives provided under CREATE, or craft the appropriate financial support package for a highly desirable project or a specific industrial activity. The financial support can include utilization of government resources, which can be in terms of land use, water appropriation, power provision, and budgetary support provision under the Annual General Appropriations Act. The total period of availment is not to exceed 40 years, and within that 40 years, ITH availment is not to exceed 8 years. In fact, we are actually looking at this provision and the special power of the President for the development of the LACE with all the necessary infrastructure and amenities to be truly an ecological industrial zone. One can also consider this provision for a project that would really jumpstart the EV industry in the Philippines in a big way.
Mr. Chosa? Arnold, I think our guest speaker is
Having technical issues?
having some technical issues. While we're waiting for her to get back, what are your do you have any general impressions about what she has shared? Meanwhile, may I ask our technical staff to please reach out to Executive Director Tijosa to reconnect her as soon as possible? Hi, Arnold. Good to see you again.
Yeah, it's good to see you too, Clint. Mr. Chosa has raised several very interesting points, but I'm eager to ask her a question about actual implementation of plans.
Yeah.
Since, if you remember, for the longest time for the Philippine automotive industry was to build cars for the rest of the world. And we made steps to achieve that. The most recent one being the CARS program,
Yeah.
which unfortunately is about to expire and has yet to take off really because we have the CREATE law that's hanging over it because basically you need to give manufacturers and even importers for that matter incentives to do business. But since CREATE has set out a policy of streamlining and rationalizing incentives, that has put the brakes on the CARS program. And I'd like to ask Mr. Chosa what the government
Sorry.
besides.
That's okay, Mr. Chosa. Why don't you reshare your slide? Arnold and I were just strategizing on how to grill you after. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, we were just talking about the CARS program, or Arnold was talking about the CARS program. There are a lot of developments now, and it was interesting that you mentioned, of course, the new CREATE law. But I guess we'll stop there for the moment and allow you to finish, and we'll pose our questions when you can now hear them. Okay, back to you, Ms. Dichosa.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Ang. So just on my last slide now. So I'll just start on this last slide. So I just want to share this World Bank study on the Philippine participation, where of course there's already that rapid shift to case technologies when it comes to the automotive industry. So in fact, the EV sales was the least affected during the pandemic. And Tesla had its doubling of sales in the China market to $6.6 billion. So what's good about this one is based on the World Bank study, the transition of some electronic assembly firms to electric vehicle assembly. They said that this would provide opportunities for the Philippines to enter the electric car global value chain. In fact, the World Bank study showed that the country has a couple of building blocks to support a competitive EV industry in terms of converting voluminous quartz or cobalt resources into lithium-ion EV batteries, leveraging electronic strengths to transition into EV electronic systems and sub-circuits for automotive OEMs and Tier 1 companies, And lastly, attracting an automotive outsource facility, and they define this as one facility with multiple brands assembled to form one core of a mega automotive cluster. So in this light, the opportunity for us lies in upgrading our participation in the electronics value chains and processing our rich mineral reserves such as nickel, copper, and cobalt that are considered as some of the primary materials of a battery cell. The government has recently issued Executive Order 130, lifting a 9-year moratorium on new mineral agreements and thereby opening or reopening the door to fresh mining investments to support our industrialization programs and objectives. So on a final note, we just would like to thank our industry stakeholders, our partners like Attorney Rommel and Mr. Joseph Bautista for their continued partnership with us. For those who are not yet connected with us, those in the FB right now, we would like to know and work with you also. So you can send us an email through this contact info shown on the screen. So we in the BOI and BTI will continue to work hard, not only to help rebuild our industries, but also to create healthier communities and create more growth opportunities for our local companies. So yun lang po, and thank you for your attention.
Okay. Well, we're glad to have you back, Executive Director Dichosa. We'll now go to a Q&A, and I'll have my colleague ask the first question, which we were discussing while you were trying to reconnect. But before I give the screen to Arnold, allow me to thank our sponsors and partners for today's program. Of course, Toyota Motor Philippines, and our organizational partners, the British Chamber of Commerce, the French Chamber of Commerce in the Philippines, the Italian Chamber of Commerce, the Davao Chamber of Commerce, the Financial Executives Association of the Philippines, or FINEX, the Management Association of the Philippines, or MAP, and of course, our TV partner, the Manila Times TV. So Arnold, you get first dibs on the Q&A. Go ahead.
Yes. Good morning, ma'am. Yeah. Well, Clint and I were talking about several points you raised in your presentation. And for me, there's this, I was talking about that for the longest time, the dream for the Philippines was to make us a provider of cars for the rest of the world, motor vehicles. And one notable program that was implemented to do that exactly was the Comprehensive Auto Resurgence Initiative. But cars, unfortunately, is about to expire now, and we haven't actually met the export targets that were set under the program. There has been talk about the program being extended, but what we've been told is that the incentives that have to be provided or have to be tied to the CREATE law have yet to be settled. So what is exactly the Board of Investments doing to address that issue?
Okay, thank you for that question. Actually, yes, there is that. Because when we crafted the CARS program, it was before CREATE, and the provision that we actually used to justify the implementation of the program was still in EO 226, but that provision has been repealed by CREATE. So in extending the program, which will require another executive order to revise or amend some of the relevant provisions, we would need to find a legal basis again, which is going to be under CREATE already. So in the BOI, we're now looking at that. What would be the relevant provision that can be used to extend the program life so that our participants can comply with the requirements under the program and still enjoy what is remaining of the incentive. So that is currently an ongoing study in the BOI, but we've actually started drafting the executive order for that extension. So it's really a matter of finding that legal provisions that we can use in lieu of what we used before under EO 182.
So you're confident that the extension will be made soon. A news report I read recently said about February February could be the date when the EO could be published. Is that,
Well, that's possible because, of course, we understand the concerns of the two participants. They cannot wait naman din in terms of, planning for next year because these are big businesses as well, no? So we're trying to resolve it as soon as we can. So we'll try and target for that early issuance next year.
You're still lacking a participant for the program. How are we doing in terms of attracting that third player?
No, actually, we already closed the program because different from the other incentive programs of the government or of the BOI, for CARS program, there was only a specific application period. So it was open for 3 months. I think that was in March 2016. And those who were interested were given 3 months to apply with the BOI. So at the end of the third month, it was closed already. So the third slot that was initially allocated when we started with it, that is now being allocated to another program that will hopefully support naman the PUV modernization program of the DOTR. So in effect, we are not looking for the third slot anymore or the third participants. We're actually looking at allocating that third slot to support already, not necessarily one participant only, but we're already looking the budget allocated for the third participant to support the PUV modernization program of the DOTR. So that could be multiple participants depending on what can be eventually finalized as an agreement between the OTR and DTI.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. One final question before I turn you over to Klink. Again, the assembly dream is still alive, but I see that there seems to be an increased push for the parts sector. We all know that wiring harnesses is one of our exports, and I saw in your presentation that EV systems, batteries, and such are going to be promoted. Again, looking forward, when can we expect? Since the EV program under your presentation remains a proposed initiative. So again, looking at the timeline for the government, when can we expect those incentives and those guidelines to be out so that the industry can go full steam ahead?
Okay. Actually, the incentives are already available. Currently, in the BOI, under our Investments Priorities Plan for 2020, which is the transitional SIPP under CREATE, the assembly of motor vehicles and the manufacture of parts and components are incentivized, whether it's for the internal combustion engine or for the electric vehicles. We also incentivize currently the establishment of charging stations, and then of course the operation of fleets of electric vehicles or electric buses. So we have those already currently incentivized. I think dun sa EV bills that are currently proposed, I think ang maganda kasi doon, it's very comprehensive. While we've been doing, like for example, the Department of Energy has been issuing policies that will already provide the guidelines for the establishment of charging stations, looking at the energy supply because we need that also for the electric vehicles operations and the charging stations. They've been issuing policies naman related to that. But I guess the emphasis lang on the EV bills is it will already provide a comprehensive framework because in the bill itself, all the relevant agencies, DOST, DTI, DOTR, DOE, were all mandated under the bill to do specific things to create that ecosystem really for the EV industry development. So while we've been doing our own based on our mandates, I think the EV bill is important because that will provide the umbrella for what we have been doing in the past. So there have been parang islands of what we've been doing to encourage and promote the use or the adoption and the manufacturing of EVs. But of course, as you well know, most of our EVs are still the e-trikes, which are used for public transport. So most probably also, we will try to use the PUV modernization program of the DOTR to create that market also. So that could also stimulate some business interest and hopefully have more than e-trikes of electric vehicles flying the roads of the Philippines. So yun. So I guess marami na siya, but we're hoping that the EV bill, there is a bicameral conference scheduled on November 23. So we're really looking forward to having that EV Act already that will really push everything forward and fast-tracked.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Clint, you have any questions for?
Yeah, maybe just one before we move on to our next speaker. Given the the economic climate today, and I think that your report is welcome to the public. But what is the environment now? Because you mentioned incentivizing some of these developments that the government wants to pursue. But of course, there's that pressure to raise revenue and recover from the pandemic. Maybe you can talk. Specifically, I'm interested in the effort to promote exports and trade. I mean, and of course, you want investors to come in. Then to do that, you're offering incentives. So we have this climate now that we have to raise money to fund our recovery. So maybe you can maybe give us an idea of the dynamics that are going on and what we're likely to see in terms of policy in the next year that you have not yet discussed.
Okay. So in terms of revenue generation for the government, of course, that is still primordial, no? Because we have to fund our economic recovery. But we also balance it with, for example, not making naman the business environment prohibitive for businesses because we want them to stay, we want them to retain employment, and if possible, diversify and expand their businesses because that's the only way we can recover also our employment, which is very important. Because as we safely reopen the economy, as we employ more people, because that will also mean less money to spend, to allocate for providing them, diba? Like ayuda or social services. So those are being balanced in a way. And in terms of really, generating more revenues, we would like to expand the tax base. So having more businesses. So yung push then for more entrepreneurs, yung push for more startups, to provide innovations and technologies to make our businesses more competitive, generate more revenues. That's part of it, including yung ating hopefully internationalization of SMEs so we can export more. Yun nga. So, but of course, you have to also remember that we have a very strong OFW, no? So they also remit a lot to the government. So that also forms part of the income of the national economy. So these are all things that are being considered, and we're quite optimistic considering that we also had a very good performance in the third quarter. So yun, sir. So we're hoping that more businesses with the CREATE settling down, with the IRR issued, will hopefully have more investments and more employment generated, maybe starting early next year, if not this year.
Yeah, well, I hope you can stay later to the second part of the Q&A. I'd like to ask follow-up questions to that because before the pandemic there was this, I suppose, a push to review or rationalize the incentives for foreign investors coming in or to attract foreign investors to come in. But maybe we should give time now to our next speakers. Yes. Arnold, may I ask you to introduce our next speaker this morning? Thank you, Executive Director.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is an experienced automotive industry specialist. Sorry, it's Roma. I thought it was Joseph. Anyway, our next speaker has 19 years of experience in the automotive business. He joined Toyota Motor Philippines in 2002, and he is currently the first vice president of that car maker. He is the president of the Chamber of Automotive Manufacturers of the Philippines and has held the position since 2012. The organization is the leading automotive industry group which represents 25 global vehicle brands. He is also the current president of the ASEAN Automotive Federation, which is composed of the national automotive associations in the region. Rommel is a licensed accountant and lawyer, and his professional experience also includes external relations management and data protection. Welcome, attorney, to our forum.
Thank you, Arnold. Yeah, that's true. I cannot match the experience and expertise of Joseph. It's been in the auto industry way long before I joined, no, in 2002. Anyway, thank you for having me and good morning to everyone. I have a short presentation. May I request? Okay, can you see my slide? I'm not controlling this one, so I just say next. Okay, thank you. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah, the Philippines remained the second fastest growing market for motor vehicle sales and assembly in Southeast Asia, posting double-digit growth in the 9 months to September this year. 63,341 motor vehicles were manufactured in the Philippines as of end September, which is 35.8% higher than the 46,628 units in the same period last year. Philippines trailed Indonesia, which posted the highest motor vehicle output growth at 64.4% in the 9-month period. Next slide, please. Yeah, the auto industry has been showing signs of recovery. In fact, January to October this year, we already hit 214,186. And this is 23% higher than the same period last year. In fact, passenger cars sales went up by 29% and commercial vehicles by 21%. As a footnote, we are targeting, or the industry is targeting around 295,400 units this year total. And this is actually a 32% target higher than the 2020 actual. Next slide, please. Yeah, as if 2019 challenges were not enough, we encountered more challenges, major challenges in 2021. In fact, we were greeted the new year. New Year greeted us with the imposition of the safeguard duty on imported vehicles. And this actually led some buyers to hold on to the purchase of their vehicles. We also had, as we all know, community lockdowns, which really affected the sales, no? And of course, the surge in COVID-19 cases. Next slide, please. Okay, we see a sustained growth trend, and we expect that 2022 sales to be 25 to 30% higher than this year. And we see this trend growing even next year. Initial projection is about 369,250 for next year. Next slide, please. What would bring, what are the triggers for this sustained growth that we expect? We have, based on the projection by central banks and other entities. We have strong Philippine economic outlook with a GDP forecast of 7 to 9% in 2022. Of course, consumer confidence getting higher. And traditionally, national elections is a good year for the auto industry. We see some incremental sales, no, because of national elections. Next year, please. Next slide, please. Yeah. The multi-sectoral collaborations will pave the way for full recovery of the auto industry. Although we are looking at the pre-pandemic sales level to be back by 2023, not yet next year. And this is due to the fast tracking of government's vaccination and our booster vaccine rollout, strong public-private cooperation, and notably the recovery of tourism and other industries. That's right. Yeah, that's all from me. So we're ready for the Q&A. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, attorney. Again, if I may,
Sure. Yeah.
I seem to be fixated on the cars program, but yeah,
No,
but
no,
Toyota,
I think we're going to have Mr. Bautista speak first, and then
okay.
and then I will do the Q&A, and hopefully with all three of them.
Yes. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt.
Thank you, Clink. Okay. Our next speaker, according to Mr. Gutierrez, has even more experience than him. But Mr. Bautista is an experienced automotive industry specialist with extensive knowledge of the Philippine motor vehicle industry. These include motor vehicle development, safety, emissions and roadworthiness, trade, taxation, modernization of PUVs, and also regional harmonization. He has served 3 terms as president of the Truck Manufacturers Association of the Philippines and has represented the industry in relation to issues such as bills being put forth in Congress, and he continues to work with the government on manufacturing resurgence programs. His knowledge in vehicle manufacturing includes homologation, localization, parts development, VAVE, and production engineering. For the local media, he is the face of Isuzu in the Philippines. And Mr. Bautista also has contributed many traveling stories to the Manila Times Fast Times page. Welcome, Mr. Bautista, to our forum.
Okay, thank you, Arnold. Good morning, Chairman Klink, and the rest of the Manila Times team, Director Cory Dichos of BOI, President Romel Gutierrez, who also have a lot of experience in terms of automobile sector, and those watching us, watching this forum via FB. Again, good morning. In behalf of the Truck Manufacturer Association, just allow me to give you a brief background regarding TMA. I'll be reporting specifically about commercial vehicle market. TMA was established in 1978 during the Progressive Truck Manufacturing Program by major truck manufacturers, importer, and distributor at that time. Currently, TMA members manufacture, import, and distribute LCVs as well as trucks and buses. The association is affiliated with many associations like the Federation of Philippine Industries, the Federation of Automotive Industries of the Philippines, as well as the ASEAN Automotive Federation, where Attorney Rommel is the current president. The association aims to be the platform to communicate commercial vehicle industry ideas, position, plans, programs, and policy recommendations to government, private sector, and international stakeholders. TMA has worked closely with the government in the development of the motor vehicle development programs, as well as in the safety and emission regulation, and as mentioned, on the PUB modernization programs, among others. Currently, TMA has 12 members, so these are the members of TMA. And TMA also shares most of its membership with CAMPI. That's why we have regular CAMPI TMA regular monthly reports. This slide shows the combined CAMPI TMA motor vehicle sales from 2011 to present. Motor vehicle sales in the Philippines mirror the Philippine economy. Since 2011, the economy average GDP growth is between 5 to 7%, and this has reflected on the growth of the motor vehicle industry as the improving economic condition encourage individual and corporate buyers to buy new vehicles. The drop in sales in 2018 was mainly due to the introduction of the new excise tax law and in the imposition of higher emission regulation like the Euro 4. The big drop in 2020, we know, is mainly due to the pandemic. And fortunately, in 2021, the industry is slowly recovering with the year-to-date 20% increase over 2020 sales. So let me break down further CAMPI TMA sales. The yearly sales is composed of the following. LCB or UBs, this is composed of MPVs, SUVs, van, and cabin chassis. These vehicles are used in the Philippines for personal and business use. We also have passenger car at 32% and trucks and buses at 3%. So to summarize, Philippines is probably 32% passenger cars and 68% commercial vehicles. So this has been the trend for the past more than 10 years already. Okay, next slide is, but in actual vehicle registration in the Philippines with LTO, the actual number is actually higher because for registered for the first time on new vehicles. The difference between CAMPI TMA and LTO figures are what the industry calls as industry leakage. The industry leakage comes from sales of imported second-hand vehicles, locally manufactured and rebuilt vehicle, as well as from those companies who are not yet members of CAMPI TMA, as we have no access to their sales data. So next slide is actually the total motor vehicle share has actually reached as high as 583,000 in 2017. This has been the highest. And of this number, CAMPI TMA contributed 72% share, which is a big improvement considering that our share to the total registration was only about 64% in 2011. So allow me to share on the data on specific segment. For passenger car, CAMPI TMA share is actually 100%. This is mainly due to competitive offerings from CAMPI TMA members, but from 2018, due to implementation of FTA with China, we are seeing many new players which are not yet member of CAMPI TMA entering the Philippine market. In case of light commercial vehicles, the leakage actually comes from some imported cabin chassis and van models, as well as remanufacturings like jeepney, minicabs, and NPV, and from non-CAMPI TMA members. The share is about 70%. But in case of trucks and buses, the gap is actually quite huge between the LTO data. Certain types of imported second-hand trucks and buses are allowed with certain restrictions, such as it must be left-hand drive, must meet safety and emission regulations. There have been some remarkable improvements since 2011, where our share was only about 11%. It now stands at around 24% as most companies have started to discover the advantage of buying brand new vehicles like trucks and buses in terms of cost effectiveness. TMA hopes that with the improving economy and stricter rules in terms of safety, emission, and roadworthiness, our share will increase further. Let's focus on several types of LCVs and CVs. This is actually the breakdown of LCVs and CVs in the market. The cabin chassis, such as Mitsubishi L300 and Isuzu Travis, is still the most popular type of lightweight trucks, selling as high as 16,529 year-to-date in October 2021, despite the pandemic. We will explain the reason on the next slide. Light duty truck or category T continue to recover, some with medium trucks and category 4 and heavy duty trucks or category 5. This CB truck classification is based on GBW under BOI's Motor Vehicle Development Program, as shown on the next slide. So this is the breakdown of LCBs and CBs in the market. We have LCB, which is up to 3 tons, Category T, which is between 3 tons to 6 tons, Category 4, which is between 6 tons to 18 tons, and Category 5, which is above 18 tons. So let's look at these trucks in details, starting with lightweight cab and chassis, which comes with several applications like flexible UV bodies, aluminum bands, and drop side. It is actually the only segment during the pandemic in 2020 which showed 78% increase compared to total industry drop of 40%. In 2021, the year-to-date growth stands at 64%. So we consider this as one of the brightest spots in the motor vehicle segment in the Philippines. So the reason behind this is due to last mile deliveries and e-commerce, which have become popular during the past 2 years. Companies need cargo-efficient lightweight trucks that are truck ban exempted and can go anywhere, anytime. Next are light-duty trucks as seen on the slide. These are mostly aluminum bands and flexible utility bands. Light-duty trucks remain to be the main choice of small to medium businesses and those who are requiring a reliable logistic warehouse with light load requirements. Year-to-date market showed and continued increase in the demands with a growth of 20%. Next are medium-duty trucks, mainly consisting of corporate deliveries and logistical solution companies which require heavier loads. Some are also a special purpose vehicle specifically designed for the purpose of each industry it serves. With 35% growth for year-to-date 2021, the medium-duty truck category remains positive for the foreseeable future. And lastly, the heavy-duty trucks, used mostly as trailers and long-haul deliveries. And for heavy-duty trucks, the market has started to recover in 2021, with a remarkable year-to-date increase of 21%. This is mainly due to refleeting of most companies after postponing their purchases in 2020. For commercial vehicle, it is important that deliveries are done efficiently and on time. Lastly, we would like to make mention about the people movers, particularly the PUB modernization. The government launched in 2017 the PUB modernization programs that aims to modernize the public transportation system in the Philippines. It aims to provide modern, convenient, comfortable, safe, and environment-friendly mode of transportation. It plans to replace 200,000 units of traditional jeepneys with modern PUBs, as well as introduce other modern transport alternatives like carousel buses and BRTs. CAMPI is closely working with government in the development of modern PUBs under this program. Now let's look at some of the indicators that will affect the future of motor vehicle in the Philippines. First, the GDP. We know that the GDP has shown signs of recovery in the last 2 quarters of 2021. Manufacturing, construction, wholesale, and retail trade have contributed most of this growth. These are essential industries to sustain the growth of commercial vehicles. Next, household consumption grew by 7.1% in the 3rd quarter of 2021. This is important news for us because families are spending more towards food and non-alcoholic beverages, capturing 36.4%. This means demand for necessities would further increase, expected to grow to 4th quarter during the holiday season. Consumer confidence may continue to spur demand in commercial vehicles. Consumers in the Philippines were less pessimistic in the 3rd quarter of 2021, with the confidence index increasing to negative 19% from the previous negative 30.9% in the previous 3 months. The less pessimistic mood among Filipino consumer was mainly due to availability of more jobs and more working family members, additional income, and effective government policies and program, particularly in addressing COVID-19 related concern. And we'd just like to show what are the challenges that we're facing right now. So as I mentioned, one of those is actually the used vehicle or parallel importation of trucks. As shown, still 3 out of 4 newly registered trucks at LTO are coming from industry leakage, and most of them are coming from imported second-hand, rebuilt and remanufactured trucks. Many of them actually can no longer be registered at their country of origins because they can no longer comply with regulation like safety and roadworthiness. We feel that they should be inspected first in terms of compliance before they are allowed to be registered in the Philippines. Next challenge is actually the motor vehicle inspection system under PMBIC, which is an important component to ensure that only roadworthy vehicles are allowed to run on public road. We have seen a lot of accident in terms of used trucks along the road. So we are hoping that PMBIC would somehow remove those unsafe vehicles from the road. The association hopes that the issues on initial implementation will be resolved, and the association is also hopeful that dealer operation MBIS be allowed to participate in the program. Next is another serious problem for commercial vehicle actually is we are now facing a shortage of professional drivers. Although we continue to train drivers as well as many private institutions, we have experienced that once the drivers have become professional in the Philippines and gain experience, they would tend to go abroad. We're losing a lot of drivers, good drivers. So we want to continue with these trainings. And next is implementation of stricter emission and safety regulation. We're now looking at Euro 5 in the next few years to be implemented in the Philippines. For heavy-duty vehicles, this means that it will involve higher costs and additional better fuel regulations as well as use of AdBlue. So the members are ready to comply as long as there is enough lead time. We have informed the government that if they plan to introduce any regulation, we should be given 2+2 lead time. I mean, 2 years official announcement before implementation on new models, and another 2 years for the existing models. And then this was already mentioned by Director Cory, it's the shift to electric vehicle. The switch to electric vehicles or EVs has started already, and many countries has announced the phase out of internal combustion engines or ICE by 2040 in order to attain carbon neutrality. In the Philippines, 2 EV bills have been filed in both Congress and Senate, and they propose the conversion of certain percentage of government fleet to EVs. In case of commercial vehicles, unlike passenger car or LCV, transport of vehicles like buses and coaches have better transition prospect to EVs due to predictable operation hour and routes. However, for medium and heavy-duty trucks that require longer mileage and operating hours, the shift to EV is still on a slow start due to concern on mileage and costs. But we're working closely with our principals in the development of commercial vehicle electric vehicles, EV. But there are some bright spots in terms of CV growth. Among them, as I mentioned already, it's the boost in logistics sector that has weaved through the pandemic as people shift to e-commerce. So Lazada and Shopee, every time that you click the 1111 Shopee, it's good for us because they will be buying more commercial vehicles and to be used for e-commerce and logistics. As shown, many lightweight trucks are being purchased now, and the numbers will continue to increase as we move towards new normal. Next is as shown also on the economic report, manufacturer sector slowly started to recover. For the new industry that supply vehicles that support this sector, this means more opportunities to increase sales for us. And then, of course, the construction sector, particularly under government's Build program, is also doing well. And utility companies such as power, water, telecommunications, they resumed the repleting. They postponed in 2020, but this year they've resumed buying new vehicles to replete their existing vehicles. Next, the government is actually our #1 customer for CB, and they have resumed their modernization program. We have started our deliveries with the armed forces, the Bureau of Fire, the PNPs, and many government institutions that have started their modernization program. Also, similarly, LGUs has also started booking for new vehicles to help in their operations. As mentioned, 2022 is an election year, and the industry see more opportunities to supply the local government on the road to recovery. Okay, this is my final slide. The GDP prospect appear bright according to BSP, with the adjusted second quarter GDP and real growth of 12%, followed by the 7.1% growth in the third quarter. A 2021 full-year growth rate of between 5 to 6% is attainable. Based on recent developments, including the ramp-up vaccine rollout and the ebbing COVID-19 cases, the GDP growth targets at 7 to 9% in 2022 and between 6 to 7% in 2023 looks doable. So for us in the commercial vehicle sector, this is good news for us. While we are still experiencing some parts shortage problem and the rising cost of metal as well as oil, we are optimistic and we are ready to supply the right vehicle to support the economy on its road to recovery. So that's all for me, and then maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Mr. Bautista. I guess I have a question for both you and Mr. Gutierrez. We can all say that the domestic automotive industry it's about time that the domestic industry sees a good year. We all know that after 2017, the next 2 years were basically bad years. You had the VAT increase, then you had the safeguard duty, then COVID hit, etc., etc. So you're about due for something good. It's now Christmas season, and traditionally sales pick up for that period. I suppose you can say it's a given that this year's target, despite being drastically reduced from pre-pandemic levels, will be hit. Can we make that fearless forecast? Anyone have one?
Bumubulong si attorney. So we're actually targeting the total industry, all the players, including Abbott. We're looking at 295. But as I mentioned, we are experiencing some slight problem in terms of supply. Most of our principal companies are encountering shortage in some parts, mostly electronic parts, and this actually delayed the rollout of many vehicles globally. Also, there's a big spike in the cost of steel products, which is actually raising the cost of some of the vehicles. And lastly, the oil price is increasing. This means that it will affect the petrochemical sector, which is actually the main source of plastic parts for automotive. So while we are hoping that we will be reaching to 95, there might be some delays in the supply of vehicles to customers.
Mr. Gutierrez?
Yeah, it's barely 1 month to go, and December may not have the same number of days, working days, selling days, as other months, while November is doing well. Yeah, we may not hit the target exactly, but it will still be a very impressive year for this. No, we may have set a target that's high, but again, so far we are doing good compared to last year. Uh, there may be slight difference between our target and actual sales by end of December. Yeah, to be honest.
Okay, you've projected a full recovery by 2023. Mr. Bautista mentioned it. Have those figures or estimates factored in the global supply shortage in chips in semiconductors that are crucial for cars to operate? Chips, I'm talking about electronic chips.
Yeah, for actually for Philippines,
And again, anybody?
yeah, yeah, for Philippines, it's not really a major setback, no.
Um,
Do you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes.
yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Again, for Philippines, we have not really experienced big setback, no, because of the chip problems, no. While we consider that as one of the factors, answering your question, yes, that projection until 2023 considers that, and that remains to be seen, and that remains to be actually the projected figures, no, to reach pre-pandemic level.
Okay. Clint, would you have any questions to ask our panelists?
Yes, well, first I want to recognize that Executive Dichosa is back here with us. Maybe we can bring you into the Q&A as well. And let me start with you because Mr. Bautista talked about one of the problems of the commercial vehicle industry, but I believe there's also a problem of Campis, which is the importation of used vehicles. In fact, I remember in the past, the problem had to do with the conversion of, right-hand vehicles to left-hand. I know you said that the government is keen on, rebuilding the local manufacturing industry and perhaps even export. But doesn't, I was wondering if BOI has tackled this particular issue because it seems to be working against the very policies that you said the Philippines wants to promote. But in fairness, this has been going on for many decades, probably before you were executive director of BOI, but it continues to be a problem, this importation of used trucks and other vehicles from abroad. Maybe you can update us on what BOI has been discussing about this issue.
Yes, thank you for that question. Very difficult question, actually.
Yeah.
But yes, that has been a problem that's ongoing, and of course we've been working with our industry stakeholders on that one. In fact, the prevailing law, which is EO 156 on the Motor Vehicle Development Program, actually prohibits the importation of used vehicles, except for a few ones, like for example, the special purpose vehicles that are usually used by businesses, no. And I think that was, the EO 156 is circa 2002. So you'll probably imagine what would have been the structure of our motor vehicle industry then, what were the types of vehicles being done by then, so that it was sort of like a balance, how to provide also the vehicles for those who are like MSMEs who do not have enough money to buy new vehicles, but they want to do business. So, but this is something that we've been discussing. It's just that it's also difficult to monitor. I mean, for example, you can allow, for example, used vehicles within the economic zones, and they cannot actually put it out outside of the zones if they want to use it. So there's a law that actually helps. It's probably just the implementation and monitoring, and maybe, of course, also the help from the industry stakeholders, because if they probably know of something, maybe they can tell us, the relevant government agencies, and we can help, solve this problem together.
Yeah. Well, I think they mentioned LTO as one of those. I don't know if BOI works for them, but let me go to the next question. It's, because one of the things that we saw in the news the other day is the MMDA reconsidering the imposition of the number coding scheme. I suppose this is more for Attorney Romel and Mr. Bautista, but maybe your thoughts, because I think the issue is being tied into the reopening. We're seeing a return of traffic congestion. But I just to let you know, in June we wrote an editorial suggesting to MMDA not to reimpose it anymore. But what is the industry view on the number coding scheme?
Yes. We've learned to live with it. In fact, we take it positively.
Yep.
If people would need another car for the coding, then that would be good for us. But kidding aside, now this is really part of the business, and I don't think it's a major factor,
Okay.
For the growth of the industry. Joseph?
Okay, I agree with the attorney, but I also appreciate that the government are putting a lot of alternatives in terms of mass transportation system. Even if you have one or two vehicles, you can now actually start to use the it's a carousel bus or modern PUBs as another alternative. You can leave your car at home and then use the. It's actually improving the past several 2 years already. The extra carousel bus is actually a good mass transport system that has been implemented, as well as the PUB modernization. You get a more comfortable and more dependable mode of transportation to take you from point A to point B.
All right. Let me move on to the EV revolution, and some of you have mentioned that already. And we see from news that manufacturers are I remember recently GM saying that maybe going full EV by 2035, and Executive Dichosa was mentioning also the other government programs that could incentivize that. But where are we now? I mean, I know Toyota, for example, has EV vehicles, but in other markets, what does it take, to bring those products to the Philippines? I don't mean to put you on the spot, since we have the BOI here. Maybe we can, bat for some new policies to incentivize those types of vehicles. Maybe Attorney Romel first from Campi.
Yeah, the distributors are actually just waiting for the right time and infrastructures, particularly, to be able to cater to electric vehicles. No, we do have a lineup of electric vehicles. It's just that a matter of time. No, the market, we feel, is not yet mature enough to absorb electric vehicles, and really incentives would really be a big factor in the convincing our principals to bring in more electric vehicles. So again, there's a pending bill in the Senate, and in fact, I think Ma'am Cory, there'll be hearing soon. So we continue to collaborate with government so that the right environment would be there, and electric vehicles would really be coming here. Matter of time.
Mr. Bautista, you want to jump in?
Okay, let me add to what Attorney Romel said. our principal company is actually ready with their electric vehicles. We're just waiting for infrastructure to be put in place in the Philippines. Number two, that's also a big factor in the success of EV implementation in many countries is subsidy from government. It's actually very expensive. The price is actually double what the regular internal combustion engine. We still have to reach a certain price parity between internal combustion engine and EVs. The price of battery is slowly going down, but it's still very expensive. Also, another concern from customer is actually the mileage. How long you can go on a full charge. So we're now talking about 200 to 300 kilometers, but for commercial vehicle, that's not enough. I think because we have to go from point A to point B, and normally it will take about 500 kilometers long drive. So it's not enough, and for commercial vehicle, it's still very expensive to have an EV, full EV electric vehicles. And you still have to really worry if there are enough charging station if you go to Apari or if you go to Lawag. So in terms of passenger car and small vehicle, yes, there's already a lot of developments. But in terms of commercial vehicle, we still have to really study on mileage and costs.
But I was wondering, Mr. Attorney Rommel, in terms of volumes, right? What volumes would we need to reach in EV sales to make it viable to consider local assembly or local manufacturing? Is that something that we're looking at? I mean, how many units would we have to sell first to make it, even attractive for companies to look at local manufacturing, local assembly, much less exports, right?
Yeah. Well, currently, in the case of Innova and Vios, we're producing like 60,000 a year. And that's the best selling models, no? And for electric vehicles, I don't think we can reach that overnight. So it will take a lot of time yet to even consider locally manufacturing. But again, we have to start introducing that to the market and let market accept that, And once we reach that comfortable level, then we can consider locally manufacturing it. But perhaps we can start with parts and components related to that, so that in the long run we could eventually consider locally producing it.
Yeah. If I might jump in, one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. We can start small, I think, with respect to electric vehicles. One sector that hasn't been raised here is maybe we can pursue a shift to electric two-wheeled. We have a lot of motorcycles, in countries like China, Beijing, for example. You won't see internal combustion powered motorcycles on the streets. They're all electric. Maybe that's one thing we can do for the Philippines. Set an initiative to phase out two-stroke motorcycles and maybe give incentives na magpalit na kayo, mag-EV na kayo. Is that feasible?
Corey?
Maybe from BOI, actually for two-stroke motorcycles, they're not qualified anymore. They're actually discouraged. From the BOI policy side, we have discouraged the assembly of two-stroke already. Maybe as early as late or maybe early 2000, just in time for the EO 156, which is the currently MVDP natin. So kumbaga parang it's not anymore. Well, hopefully nawala na yung mga two-stroke, because we've been trying to discourage na, and we're not incentivizing the assembly of that. But in terms of public transport, as I mentioned earlier, we have a lot of e-trikes already. While we're trying to, encourage also the shift to e-trikes as a public transport, particularly in the LGUs, I think we have also have a transition period because in a lot of LGUs, most of them are serviced by the yun nga, fuel run motorcycles. So probably a move. Well, some of our LGUs actually have moved towards that. No? For example, the City of Manila before they incentivize a livelihood program for those who will shift to e-trikes as well. So the different LGUs have different programs for that, but I guess it will really take a bit of time. And then in terms of the, for example, we have Egypt's also applying several LGUs, no? And for example, as far as Cagayan de Oro, I think we have e-vehicles under the PVMP of the OTR that's locally assembled and it's an e-vehicle. So we have different companies and different LGUs actually have these programs. I guess we'll just have to really, sabi nga ni Attorney Romel, it will take a bit of time because we need infrastructure. We have to set up kasi if you have a charging station, of course, huhugot yan sa grid ng electricity, no? So we also have to parang coordinate that. Baka naman mawala ng kuryente yung ating mga residences. So, but yun nga, these are all things that are being discussed currently by a lot of the government agencies concerned. And hopefully we'll put it all together, particularly when we have the EV bill na pass before the year ends. Thank you.
Mr. Chosa, you brought up something very interesting, and I was going to ask this to Mr. Bautista, but maybe I should start with you and whether or not this EV discussion is creeping into the PUV modernization discussion. You mentioned that the initiatives have been coming mainly from LGUs. I know for example, in Las Piñas, I see some of this flying, a very short route from Alabang to Zapote, but is there a discussion also on the national level? Right, on the whole PUV program, is there a discussion on possibly, adding to the discussion the electric vehicle component of the modernization program?
Yes, actually there is that discussion. In fact, we're looking at sana nga, no, mga 10% sana of the program, the fleet program could be EVs, but not only the modernization program of the public utility vehicles, no, but we're also looking at the government refleeting program.
Right.
Now, hopefully, even the government procurement can contribute to that,
right.
Promotion of EVs in the country.
Right.
So there, yeah.
Right. Well, Mr. Bautista, do you want to add something to that? Maybe the discussion of EVs and the PUV modernization. And I think the other part there is, as a follow-up, the financing component, right? I mean, I know we want to modernize, but maybe you can also address that because people are asking, how these jeepney drivers are going to can afford the modern jeepneys.
Yeah, as already mentioned by Director Cory, our biggest customer actually the government, and if the government can initiate the rollout of the EB program, that's good for all the manufacturer. But again, the basics problem still on two issues. One is mileage, another two is cost. It's still very expensive, so it will actually require lots of subsidies, not just under Create Bill, but huge subsidies. In most countries, they give as high as $10,000 so that you can buy EVs, so that it will be affordable for the user. Another one is actually our power rates is still quite high.
Yeah.
If you charge your EVs at home, and our rates based on certain percent brackets, it will actually jack up your monthly power payment. So these are the issues that has to be resolved. It's fortunate that on the EV program, it's being spearheaded by the Department of Energy, and they can actually discuss these issues with the power companies and other utility companies.
Yeah, so a lot of issues to resolve. Arnold, do you have some other questions you'd like? Oh, go ahead, Attorney Romel.
Yeah, I saw a question in the chat box.
Yeah, go ahead.
Although I'm sure Arnold would love this. This is about the CARS program, CARS extension.
Yeah, my question, if I might have
Can we go to the ladies' question first before your question on CARS?
Okay.
Yeah, the question is about the extension of 2 years. Is that enough? I think the question is coming from parang ako na yung host Wait,
Go ahead, Attorney Rommel. Thank you.
from Miss Leah. Yeah, okay. Yeah, 2 years is of course enough, no, for us to be able to comply or to recover from the losses that we had during the past years to comply with the volume requirement. Yeah. So to answer that straightforward, 2 years is enough for us to be able to complete the 200,000 units required by the CARS program. Thank you, Ms. Leah, for the question. Arnold?
Yeah, well, you basically answered. My question would have been, since Toyota is one of the participants in the program, how has it been for the company? And you basically answered that. You have had losses and you're optimistic that, no. This is, I don't know if this is a valid question, since it's tied to a model. Is the model that we've chosen for export still valid for the markets that we're targeting?
You mean the videos
Yes.
to be exported?
Yes. Kumbaga, patok pa rin ba, ito pa rin ba yung bibilhin ng mga merkado natin sa labas? Baka naman iba ng...
When you say
iba
sa labas, outside of the Philippines, other countries are also producing videos, ano? So we are actually competing against our own affiliates in the region.
I was just wondering whether, kasi dito sa atin, di ba, we have preferences and those preferences change. I was wondering whether 6 years na, baka nagbago na.
No,
okay, thank you, sir.
We introduced din naman mga changes, no, sa the model. Although it's not, it's not, it's not, we cannot make major changes, no. But so far, based on the volume that we have sold, it's still doing good, and we will be able to achieve the required volume given the extension of Cory.
Well, yeah, the Vios has has changed a lot from when we owned one, the first one.
Thank you. You keep us employed.
It's gone a long way from that, and it's actually a very good-looking vehicle.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I have a question for Joseph. We were talking kanina about how the unregistered market, the imports are coming in. There was this figure that you flashed in a slide. I might be wrong here, but it was a comparison between LTO registrations and your official industry sales. You went as high as 70% in 2017. Pero naano ko doon na for this year, it's just a little over 50%.
Okay, it's because we haven't gotten the latest LTO data yet, October. So mukha namang it's probably half of the year pa lang.
Okay.
So, but again, the discrepancy is still quite high.
Kaya nga, sabi ko, ganun na ba kalaki yung official auto sales versus LTO registrations? Halos sobra lang sa kalahati yung yung naka-capture nyo.
Unfortunately, ganun pa rin yung situation because we've seen a lot of regions that are actually having more registration than industry sales. I'd like to make mention of Region 3 and Region 12, wherein the registration on trucks actually can go as high as 15 to 20,000 a year. And we only sell about 10,000. Those two specific regions, Region 3 and Region 12. Wow. And nobody can explain from LTO why.
Well, I think there are some assumptions that come to mind.
No. But again, fortunately, the market is slowly discovering the advantage of buying brand new in terms of cost efficiency.
Yeah.
I think if you're doing a business and you're using second-hand vehicle, there's a high probability that there'll be failures in terms of delivery, and only brand new vehicles can actually assure that you will be delivering on time. And the market is slowly learning, particularly those in the light truck and light commercial light vehicle, wherein they need to deliver as many packages as possible.
And you mentioned also Mr. Batista, the increasing emission standard requirements now being imposed, right? I mean, it's
Yes,
that's going to be a factor.
Yes. Yeah, that's also another factor, and also roadworthiness. We're actually pushing that the BIC be implemented as soon as possible, so that those vehicles that cannot comply will no longer be allowed to drive on the road.
Right. So maybe just tying it back to that EV question I had earlier, what will be the intermediary technology now? Is it going to continue to tighten in terms of emission standards, or like we see from Toyota, you have the hybrid versions now coming into market? Is there going to be hybrid commercial vehicles coming into the market while we build the infrastructure for electric vehicles?
They're going to be we form a new company, Toyota and Isuzu, to develop biglang nagkaroon ng to develop
I think that's a customer calling you already. No?
Develop EVs.
Yeah.
So we're working close. There's going to be also developments in terms of more carbon neutral internal combustion engine in the future, and we're working on it also, as well as exploring other options in terms of hybrids and hydrogen vehicles. So these are many options that we're working on.
Attorney Rommel, you want to? What technologies can we see while we wait for the full EV revolution to arrive in the Philippines? Is it going to be hybrid? Is it going to be something else? Or
we always look at hybrid as a transition.
Yeah.
It's actually electric. No? In fact, from the very start, the claim of Toyota is that it's electric. And Toyota, as you know, introduced already hybrid, and it's still here, of course. It's not limited to the Prius we introduced before. In fact, even other models, there have been introduction of hybrid already, as well as Lexus model. So the sales are picking up in terms of the hybrid, but again, the ultimate goal really is to bring in electric vehicle. But for now, at least for Toyota, hybrid would be the transition model.
The new technology.
Yeah.
Well, my last question to Executive Director Dichosa. So when the government pushes, electric vehicles, right? Are there discussions on the safety nets that the industries that will lose out? I am, for example, when we're all using electric vehicles, no one will have a need for oil changes anymore. Is there a program maybe to maybe incentivize them to also transition? I don't know what's being discussed.
Yes, that's part of course, of the consideration of government. No, even in the modernization program, in fact, we were looking at, we cannot just like scrap all vehicles, old vehicles, because you won't have a place where to stock them. So in effect, these are all being discussed. All those that will be affected by the revolution to EV or the shift to EV, even the modernization program, this will have to be discussed from those that are affected. And what do you do with those vehicles that will not be plying the roads anymore because they will be, shifted to other types of vehicles. So it's a very big, a very big discussion concerning a lot of stakeholders. So we have only been discussing this with, for example, the manufacturers, because we want them to be the first ones to really go into it, no? But
Yeah.
unfortunately, even based just on our discussions yesterday, we had a workshop on EV. There are still a lot of concerns. Primarily, their concern is we have to have the market first.
Yeah.
But as I said, I think it's the public utility vehicle modernization program and the government refitting that will be probably lead the way to really the adoption of EVs, not necessarily the private consumers right now. So yes, and then that's why I said, for those who are actually watching this webinar that are not yet connected VOI and are very interested in the topic, we would really like to connect with them so that we can also get their views, aside from those who are just in the industry right now that we've been talking to. So, yeah.
Okay. Arnold, do you have any other questions before we wrap up? Go ahead.
There's a follow-up question from Leah here for Mr. Gutierrez. I suppose this is in relation to the CARS program. She's asking, ilan na po ba daw ng mga VIOS yung na-produce nyo?
I already answered her privately.
So it's a Manila Times scoop.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I suppose we'll be learning from her.
Read it in the Manila Times tomorrow.
Yeah, because there are two options in answering,
Okay.
Live, one is online. So the first question, I gave the privilege of answering it online. The second I answered privately, if you won't mind. But yeah, I can answer that live, no? We have already produced more than 100,000 units, no? Yeah, so, and that will actually qualify us to get the incentives now.
Okay, well,
of course. Yeah, thank you.
Well, I once again thank you everyone for participating in today's business forum. We'd like to continue discussion. I miss talking to our friends in the auto industry because of, we haven't been able to do so because of the pandemic. But before we go, maybe we just ask our speakers to maybe for their final comments or for any other thoughts that maybe we haven't discussed. Let's start with Executive Director Dichosa, ma'am. Any final thoughts or messages you'd like to share?
Yes, just to say that the BOI-DTI is always here to support the automotive industry. And we would like to just maybe emphasize that I think we need to already transition to, considering EV as a way of mobility in the near future. We cannot be left behind. So I do appeal to our industry stakeholders to already consider that. And the government is open to listening what we can do to fast track this shift. So yun lang po. Thank you.
Thank you. Attorney Romel, ano yan? The government is listening daw. Your final thoughts.
Of course, yeah. We've been collaborating closely with government. In fact, private sector cannot do it by themselves, no? And I would like to thank personally Ma'am Cory here. We really have a close working relationship, And government policies are really important as far as investments are concerned, and even the decision of our principles of whether to continue production here in the Philippines. So it doesn't end with CARS program. We continue to work with government for support as we continue to strengthen the viability of local manufacturing. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Bautista.
Okay. TMA has been in the Philippines for over 43 years. We've seen a lot of changes in terms of technology, regulation, and emission. And as we face new challenges like EV and even autonomous driving, we would like to work closely with government to ensure that we'll have common goals when it comes to implementing these new technologies in the Philippines, because we know it's for the greater good. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. Of course, you can read the stories from today's forum, tomorrow's edition of the Manila Times, and in the digital edition of the Manila Times. I'd like to thank my co-moderator, Arnold. As always, good to work with you. Thank you also to our sponsor, Toyota Motor Philippines, our organizational partners, the British Chamber, the French Chamber, the Italian Chamber, the Davao Chamber, Phoenix, MAP, and of course, the Manila Times TV. Until next time, thank you, everyone, and good day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
We are Toyota Motor Philippines. And we aim to create mobility for all. So we can all move towards a better life, a better nation, a better world, and a better tomorrow. We believe in the power of movement. To excite. To inspire. And produce happiness for all.